welcome to the Grand Hill Chronicles podcast. I am Don Bishop, and I write as T.S. Pedramon. Today on the podcast, we have a continuation of last week's interview with author Herman P. Hunter. And whereas last week we focused on how to be ready for an event as an author, like what to bring to a book signing or to a convention. Today, we're kind of discussing broadly several different things that I'm going to include under the umbrella of the minutiae of publishing. And it's the interesting little details that you sometimes don't think about, but could wind up getting in the way if you're not prepared for them. I am running behind, actually, on publishing this. I normally publish it a few hours ago. It is already Thursday morning as I record this intro on April 11th. But, so I'll go ahead and cut it short. I'll leave additional announcements for next week or for the newsletter, which you can sign up at thorn.link/granthill/newsletter. There's probably also a link, I believe there is, at pedramon.com. That would be simpler rather than, in fact, I'm gonna check on that. And there's a link there. If you want to catch up on news, then sign up for the newsletter. Go to pedramon.com and click newsletter, and you'll be able to sign up. But for our interviewee today, again, same as last week, Herman P. Hunter. And you can find his works online at hphunterwriter.com. Just like it sounds, hphunterwriter.com. No dashes, no underscore. Anyway, we are picking up the interview just right where we left off last week, so I'm going to let it fade in for a few seconds. And apart from that,
and what they meant was,
I'll catch you next time.
So here's the I only buy ebooks. Okay, maybe you actually mean that. So here, you can buy the ebook right now. Oh,
exactly.
Oh, you don't want to. Okay, that's fine. But
we'll
give them the opportunity.
Mm-hmm. So, but anyways, that's kind of why. Well, the other thing is I don't think I have anything set up to do direct sales yet. And part of it is that in order to do that, you have to set yourself up, at least in Michigan. You have to set yourself up as a business entity because you have to charge sales tax. Michigan has an exemption where you can have you can do 2 events and submit sales tax without actually having an EIN number. Okay. So I've already tapped out, so now I have to set myself up as a business. If I want to go to the next one.
Yeah.
So that's part of the reason why. And there's also some complication in that my website doesn't integrate directly with BookFunnel, so I have a problem with delivering that book. So it's little things like that. Ebooks are kind of messy when you get outside of, in my opinion, ebooks are messy when you get outside of places like Barnes and Noble, Amazon, and all that, because they already have that infrastructure there to do all of that stuff. But like I said, we're depending upon BookFunnel, and most people don't know what that is.
Yes. I actually, I accidentally sat in a webinar today. I wasn't tracking that it was coming up, but I was sitting at my desk. I was doing some work. I don't remember what work I was doing. I was setting up my new sign. I was changing it from how it was yesterday. But I got a notification that this thing was happening, so I jumped in. I'll get to that in a second. So doing direct sales and we set ourselves up as a business last year and should have waited until this year, perhaps, or not. I don't know. Like having the entity has been kind of nice, just to have something to point to. Like this is what we're doing. This is us. But it wasn't so nice when my county sent us a letter like, it's that time that we're going to tax anything they use for the business. And I'm like, wait, what? The business doesn't own anything. There's no business property. Well, no, according to Virginia, your personal property that is used for your business in oh, so annoying. Anyway, there's a lot to set up when you get into direct sales, and I am partially there. You can jump onto my website, and I'll have to specify which one because I have fractured myself online. I have my author page, which is pedramon.com, which is recently set up and still not finished. And then there's thorn.link, which thorn.link/Grendhill is where this podcast is housed. And that was where I was serializing the Grendhill Chronicles. Anyway, but now I've set up grendhill.media, which is the bookstore. And that's where, Thorn Syndicate Publishing is our business name. Thorn Syndicate Publishing LLC. And then it has a doing business as name, which is Grendhill Media, thus grendhill.media. And that's my speculative fiction bookstore. And right now, you could go on there and you could buy the ebook and it would be delivered via BookFunnel. And you could go on there and buy the paperback. Maybe I shouldn't have set it as available, but I did. And the hardcover is not available because I don't have it yet. It's on the way, and Amazon is taking their time with those copies. I've ordered some from Ingram Spark as well, but the paperback is available. If I actually get any orders, that's me fulfilling it myself. The same box that I'm taking to these library signings, I'm gonna pull books out of there. If somebody orders the paperback, I'm taking that to the post office. But it's there, and so for the ebook, this webinar that I accidentally sat in today was with BookFunnel about how to set up custom domains. And I'm like, custom domains? Like, is BookFunnel a registrar now? Like, are they registering domains for people? Well, no, it's not that. It's there are things that BookFunnel offers, services that they offer to authors, which requires customers to go to bookfunnel.com, and they understand that our customers don't necessarily know what BookFunnel is, and maybe they don't want to go to this random unknown domain. So you can set up your ebook delivery page and tie it to your domain. So my ebook is delivered by BookFunnel. When they go and buy it and then they click through to get it delivered, I can set it up so that to their eyes, they're never leaving grendhill.media. They go from grendhill.media to ebook.grendhill.media or delivery, whatever I want to set it as, because I can make it point to the BookFunnel page that is delivering my book. And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things about when you're trying to doing stuff on the internet. You don't want to have it, like you said, too fragmented.
Mm-hmm.
And, they're like, wait a second, I thought I was buying this from you.
Yeah.
And they're going to some other place, some other service.
And
that's something I'd look at. But I think when I get into direct sales, I'll probably just keep it to the hard copies, because my platform is, I think I'm using Wix, and there's no real integration with BookFunnel. And I think I'm going to wait a little bit to see if something else comes along. So, and the other thing is I look at starting kind of slow. Don't go too fast. In my opinion, this is just my opinion. Don't go too fast, because you don't know what, if you're trying to cover everything all at once, there's a good chance that you won't be able to sort of master one aspect of it.
Well, and there's just so much. If you want to try to like, if you look at Joanna Penn, she's been doing this for like 14 years or 15 years.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but she's been doing this a while, and she has her website set up for direct sales, and she's had time to set things up. And I have caught myself trying to have everything up and running before it's really practical to do so. And I've been working like, I don't know, 100-hour weeks since January. I haven't tracked my hours, but I've had a lot of late nights, and I've had multiple overnighters, at least 4 since the start of the year. And just because I have deadlines, like if I want this to be here by then this needs to happen, and I need to have this, and I go into it not realizing how much that's gonna take, and also trying to do things cheaply, and that means doing things myself instead of paying for it.
Exactly.
Like with my cover designer, she gave me a great design, and with our contract, she provided me one formatted cover. But I shot myself in the foot and decided to have a Kickstarter edition with bonus content, which means the book is thicker, which means you have to reformat the cover, and publishing through multiple printers, which means that Amazon gets their template, gets their version of the file for the paperback. They get their file for the hardcover. Ingram Spark gets another paperback formatted cover and another hardcover formatted cover. And then the Kickstarter editions that I did on Ingram Sparks, the paperback and the hardcover. So I needed 6 formatted covers, and I didn't want to pay $75 per for the other 5. In retrospect, like if I had, she totally would have earned that. Like that's work that goes into it. Also, I was using GIMP, and
I got GIMP too.
GIMP is versatile. But if you're like me and you're not actually a graphic designer, you forget how things work. And also, like, I think mine has a bug where, anyway, it makes life a little bit more difficult, and I have to keep working around it. It's momentary. It's very workaroundable, but I have to keep working around it. And the GIMP doesn't do vector graphics, and formatting covers is so much easier with something that uses formatted vector graphics.
Vector graphics.
Also, the GIMP outputs RGB, and printers take CMYK color formatting. And so I was having some trouble, and I learned a new software called Scribus, which is great now. Like it's much less painful to do a new formatted cover than it was before. But those first few, like, I was up all night doing formatting covers. And I forgot how got into
this is the reason why, like I said, I'm keeping it simple my first way around.
Oh yeah.
See, I started before Amazon had a paperback business. And so there was really only one way to go. It was Ingram Spark or pretty much nothing. So and now that I'm on Ingram Spark, I've been tempted to go to Amazon, but I've been hearing some stuff about Amazon's quality, and I'm like, I'm happy with what I have. I'm not making a lot right now. And right now, because my first, 5 to 10 years are going to be me building an audience, it's more important that I have something that can deliver in a certain, or that I understand and I know who's going to deliver what when, that it is for me to try and,
Yeah, covering all your angles. It's good to have angles covered, but it's good to recognize how much work it takes to cover each angle. Like I would say, you want to have both, Ingram Spark and Amazon, but then it's how much overhead is it going to take to add the other one?
Exactly. And then let's say you update a book. Now you got to go through all those different places to update that book.
Yep.
So if you want to bring out a second or a second edition, now you got to do the whole thing all over again just because you found a few spelling mistakes, you corrected something in a previous revision.
Yeah.
So it's just like,
Well, I have I've learned a lot of things, and my second book is going to be a lot easier to get through than my first one. So I have a folder on my computer where I keep so it's my hierarchy, my folder hierarchy. You have there's my writing folder, and inside that I have a novels folder and another one for short stories. Inside novels, there's one for this particular series, and it's a little blurry there because this particular series has its folder, except the first book was the whole series, but now like within that there's a separate folder for book 2. Anyway, so inside the folder for this series, there's one for publishing, and then inside publishing there are different things, including publishing files. And then inside publishing files, there's content and there's cover formatting. And in content, I have 6 files. There's the Kickstarter PDF, the commercial PDF, the Kickstarter hardcover, commercial hardcover, Kickstarter paperback, and commercial paperback. And then I have another folder that's drafts. And any time that I replace one of these files, the old one goes into drafts.
Yeah. I have basically when I'm done, I have one folder that's distributables, and then there's promos. And while I'm writing the book and I'm editing and revising it, I have a folder for each different revision. So if I lose something, I can go back and find it in the event that I erase something.
Yeah.
That's really what I'm at. I haven't gotten into a crowdfunding yet, which I'm seriously looking at that now because I went looking around at Kickstarter. I didn't do it the first time around because when I looked at Kickstarter, or I was looking originally to do some Kickstarter to see if maybe I could fund a book that way. Excuse me. Maybe I could fund a book that way. And I saw a lot of people not funding. So I just said, well, you know what? I'll fund it myself. I do have the money. I'll fund it myself, and I'll learn along the way. But now I'm beginning to look at other people who are doing their initial book and releasing it on Kickstarter first, and they're giving out a hardback. I figure I might do something like that with one of my books upcoming.
Speaking of which, so yeah, and with Kickstarter, I offered both paperback and hardcover, but the vast majority went to hardcover. I think.
Consequently, the people I were looking at, they were doing. There was primarily hardcover and an ebook. Whether it was a PDF, I don't know, but it was an ebook.
Yeah, and next time around, if I do a Kickstarter for book 2, I think I will omit the paperback.
Yeah.
Let me look at some actual statistics in my campaign. Oh, and you have to think about like how much funding you need for your project. And
exactly.
I wanted to be realistic and like what am I gonna do anyway? And that's not what I'm asking for on Kickstarter. Like what will I do if I have more backing? And so I it didn't make sense to say, help me fund cover art, because I had already hired the artist.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Kickstarter wouldn't have allowed that to happen anyway. But what I did do was, so the our contract had me paying her yay much, and then just the way that she works, because she has an established business and she can do this. It's not work for hire under our contract, and so it licenses the design to me for use as a book cover and incidental things surrounding that. And so I'm like, well, how much is it to buy full rights above our contract for you to produce the work and for me to license it? And so it was yay much, and it was kind of close to it was a few $100s, and I'm like, okay, so how about $500 from Kickstarter? If it funds, then I will buy the full rights, so then I can do things like make this table skirt without having to make sure that I have license permission to do so. Like, I can do anything I want to with the design now because the Kickstarter funded, and and that way that it made sense to set a goal of like $500, because that was similar to what I needed to do this.
Yeah.
So in my campaign, hardcovers, there were hardcovers. There are different ways of looking at it. Like, you could buy a signed one or an unsigned one. The unsigned one gets to you faster because I'm entering your address in Ingram Spark and it's going straight to you. The signed one costs more because I have to pay for shipping to ship it to you after it comes to me.
No, I think you could do shipping, and I think you can have them, handle shipping and handling separately as well.
Yeah, you can. I didn't have the bandwidth to do it that way. I'm like, well, it's probably going to cost about this much more, so I'm just going to add that onto the price. So it could be an add-on. So you could get with your tier reward, you could get a book. If you wanted an extra, you could get an add-on. So I'm having to add multiple columns on this spreadsheet. But it looks like 3. Oh, it wasn't far and away. Maybe I should keep the paperback next time. But it was about 1 to 2. There were about twice as many hardcovers as paperbacks. But the paperbacks were still significant. Anyway, we're a little off topic, but that's fun. It's that's how conversation goes.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah, and so to get back to just having so much to set up. Like, I went through the pain of setting up for direct sales. I'm not done yet. My website is functional, but it's not pretty. It's ugly. Mm-hmm. And I need to go and give the same look to Pedramon.com and grandhill.media. Not to Thorn.link, because that's going to house our full publishing house whenever we finally later on branch out beyond speculative fiction. But Grandhill Media and I should look the same. Also, I need to move my newsletter from thorn.link/grandhill/newsletter to Pedramon.com /newsletter probably. And that's just time. It takes time to set these things up.
Well, the thing is that when I was on Wix, I basically went with, I have a paid subscription with Wix. And when I decided to do this, although I thought it was a bit premature, or now I'm beginning to realize it was a bit premature, I decided to go with the store option, which allows me to set up direct sales through Wix. So not only do I have my main site, but then I can just put in a button, which then allows me to take it right to the store, and then they can do their ordering through that. So that and because I would only do paperbacks, it makes it kind of easy. But in that way, I'm kind of taking incremental steps to expand out, because I write software for a living. And one of the things that a lot of people try to do in software, especially when they're trying to convert a system or they're trying to create a new system, is they want to throw the kitchen sink in on the first release. And the problem is that most systems, it's like Microsoft Word. Microsoft Word didn't start with all the options it has today. And if you tried to start up a new, a rewritten version of Microsoft Word, trying to get all of those options in your first release, you'll face plant very quickly. Things will get out of control. Things will start slip. You're going to get projects slip and all of that. And so one of the things I'm always advocate for is to kind of like grow organically, start at one spot and then grow out and then grow out and then grow out, and do it as, the need arises. And before you know it, you have everything you need. It just took a shorter period. It just took a little bit longer period of time to get there. So I work through what's available, which is, the online stuff. Like I said, I'm doing direct sales now through conventions, and that's going to force me to do a business, which I had to do anyways. And then at some point, I'm going to be doing, once I get the setup here, I'll be doing sales. And I've already done some shipping on my own, so I get a kind of a feel as to what I need to do and how I need to distribute stuff. And the other thing is I look at it as, when you're starting out, kind of do it on the cheap. I've seen a lot of authors who try and do like the distribution of their books. When people buy their books, they have these really fancy boxes, with all these nice things. But the thing is people throw the box out. Or, I'm going to be putting a box inside of a box so that I can ship one, but they can have the other, and they'll probably throw out the box anyways. So it's little things like that. Is you start out, and then at some point you become Brandon Sanderson, where you can do all of those nice, expensive stuff.
Yeah, and he has his own company with like 50 employees. That's how they can do things. And you mentioned Microsoft Word, and if you tried to compete with that, you look at LibreOffice. It's great that there is a competing Office suite that is free. That's awesome. But they don't have a full-time staff like Microsoft does working on the Office products. And so LibreOffice can't do everything that Microsoft Office can.
Exactly. And so
much to my chagrin, because I would rather stay with LibreOffice. But we bought an Office subscription several years ago when our home financial spreadsheets relied on things that LibreOffice couldn't keep up with.
Yeah. So, that's my experience. And like I said, I've written a lot of systems. So you kind of like able to observe the things you should do and shouldn't do. And, it's great if you have all the income to grow too fast. I ain't growing that. Mm-hmm. So it allows me to take time to actually try and experiment. And it's like when I got into sales, or when I got into writing books initially, that first novella actually wasn't going to be the book I wanted to publish. I wanted to publish something else. But I created that novella as this sort of marketing ploy where I would give them a free novella if they gave me their email address. Well, that didn't work. Mm. That failed miserably. So I ended up selling it, publishing it and selling it on places like Amazon. And that allowed me to experiment with buying ads or trying different ad systems to seeing what got me results. Which, I don't get results like some of these other guys do, and like the dojo, but I do. It did give me the opportunity to experiment and to find out where my audience is and what means I can use to attract them and how the different systems work. So, So there is an advantage to starting small and just sort of growing out as you go.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah. Well, and because you can do what you're trying to do, and it might not have the frills, but it needs to start somewhere. And I'm back to Kickstarter. So I bit off more than I could chew in the amount of time that I thought I was going to take.
Yeah.
I can chew it all. It just takes more time, a lot more time. And so like I thought I was going to have my my ebook delivered to Kickstart supporters in early February. No, it was late February. And and then the maps as well, the maps that I did myself. And I didn't want to call it done, but as Craig Martell says, perfect is the enemy of done.
Exactly.
So I had to I think the map is something else that I was up all night for one time. Perfect is the enemy done, and it was time to be done with the map. I look forward to book 2 hopefully having more detailed maps. They're going to have to, I think. It's going to have to. And then with the Kickstarter, again, to bite off a lot. I have the books are on the way. Like the books are on the way to me. I had things hung up with Ingram Spark on the cover, and then once it was finally ready, I noticed a typo. There was an asterisk. The ebooks don't always process this character. Let me see. This one asterisk on the dedication page and the acknowledgements. This guy right there. I used a special symbol, and it doesn't show up right in every ebook reader. So in the ebook, you don't see that symbol, and that's on purpose to avoid it being like a little error rectangle. You know, in the ebook, it's a regular asterisk, but in the final, what was supposed to be the final e-proof back from Ingram Spark, I noticed that I had a regular asterisk. So I had to submit a file again and let it take another day or two. And anyway, so the books are finally on their way to me. They are ordered, both paperback and hardcover. For a few individuals, their books are already, well, I say on the way. Ingram Spark hasn't printed them yet, but the order is placed. That's set. But I still need to do bookmarks, character bookmarks, and scene overlays. Now that's going to be not too extremely horrendous of a time for me to create it, because that's kind of an ancillary thing added on top of the project. It wasn't central to the project. And I was clear and upfront, like, these things will be AI art. But I need to go in and spend the time and get the AI to produce a beautiful image. So there's that. And then music. My wife and I are musicians, and there's a song in the book. Actually, there's a few songs in the book. But while I was writing, I wrote the poetry, and I came up with a musical idea. I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. So I recorded that idea. Said I'll come back to it. I thought we were going to be recording, like finishing composing. I thought we were going to be recording in February. No, it's not done composing yet, and we're at the end of March.
Like I said, your first book, my first book, I had a lot of learning to do. With the second one, I took what I learned with the first one, and I put it into practice and realized that while most of it fit, some of it didn't. And I ended up hitting some of the same problems I had prior with, like, the first book. When they formatted the book, one paragraph was split off onto another page, and I had to go. And my problem was I hadn't checked I hadn't checked it. I thought, oh yeah, it's done by a professional. That was a mistake. So I went and I had them fix it. But I already had books printing out at that time, so I'm like scrambling to try and figure out when I could get this all done and when I could submit it out, because I had people buying books. So, I mean, it eventually got fixed, and I thought it was going to be a bigger deal than it was, because, people can be real picky about, about how the book looks, this, that, or the other. Never really had that problem. So this time, so with my next one, going to make sure that didn't happen again, and it happened again. But it didn't. Luckily, it didn't happen. I caught it before it went out to Ingram Spark for the printing and all that. So I'd learned from my mistakes in the past, and then this time I'm going to be using the same process, but now I have an idea as to how to make sure that everything's in the book and that there's nothing missing and nothing is split up, all that. So I kind of have my process down. But even so, even when you have your process down, you're going to have delays. Like right now, waiting for the formatted book. I'm almost done with the audio book, which I kind of wanted to do the formatting and the audio book at the same time. Because originally, the audiobook guy would go through it and he'd find something. So I wanted to fix it, before. I don't want to have to have stuff submitted already to Amazon. Then I have to upload new stuff. So I want to fix it with the audiobook, with the audiobook kind of proofing everything, and fix it when I get the actual formatted stuff in.
Mm-hmm.
And to that, I went and I got the Adobe PDF stuff, so I can actually go in there and manipulate the PDF, and then you can, I think it's Calibre or Caliber or whatever you want to call it. You can modify that with that app. You can modify the ebook with that application.
Yeah.
So yeah, I learn with each book, and I learn to kind of solidify my process.
Yeah. And you mentioned a paragraph being split up or something. I noticed yesterday in my Kickstarter edition of the hardcover, I have the proof copy here, which isn't the final thing. Anyway. But yeah, I decided I'm just going to live with this little thing. But if I'd seen it earlier, here I have a page with one line on it.
Yeah.
I would have adjusted something in the manuscript of this short story. This is in the bonus content. So if you go and buy my book on Amazon, it's not in there like this. This is only in the Kickstarter copy. Yeah, there's a single line all by itself on a page, and it doesn't ruin anything, but it's not great. I would have adjusted something, made a scene break take up more space 2 pages earlier, so that, whatever.
Yeah, little things like that. That's the thing that drives. That's the type of stuff that drives me nuts, and you don't catch it till afterwards. So I'm constantly trying to make sure that when it's done, it's out the door, and it's as perfect as you're going to be able to get it.
Yeah.
So I even pay for editing, and I find that they don't catch everything.
Yeah.
So between my wife, the editors, any other beta readers out there, and then the audiobook guy, I'm pretty much able to cover all that ground.
Mm-hmm.
So the audiobook sort of pays for itself partially, not really, but sort of pays for itself partially. Yeah. Your editing ends up becoming this kind of this web of people that are all providing, all finding things that you can finally, before it goes out the door, you can hammer it out. Because the other part of that problem is when you, if you go to file and put your book up for a copyright, you got to make sure that you don't make a lot of changes to it. Otherwise, you invalidate your copyright. So you want to make sure that whatever changes you make don't differ too much from what's registered with the Library of Congress.
Yeah.
So little things like that, trying little different things and what. And just keeping it simple. Of course, audiobooks don't make it simple.
No. And I'm thinking about considering recording my own. I have not yet actually vetted myself as a narrator. I kind of did an audio version of the beta reader version of the book. I did that as a means to try to provide some advanced exclusive content on Substack, which didn't really work, but it did. It worked for a few people. An old friend of mine and my dad in particular were listening to it. So it worked for them. But I know that they are able to separate the voice from the story. Or maybe they're not. Maybe they like listening to my voice, but I don't know if I have a narrator voice. I assume that they're just separate. They're there for the story itself. And
I definitely do not have a narrator voice. So, I mean, I've had compliments in some of my videos. Oh, wow, your voice sounds really good. And I've noticed one thing is that it's more than just the voice. It's the ability to do the characterizations.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where Steve Fortune really comes in, because he's an actor.
Well,
so he knows how to characterize people.
Listening to your voice, the physical aspect, like you definitely do have a great narrator voice. I don't know how you are at doing characterizations though, and that is something.
Oh, I am awful. I originally started to do that because somebody mentioned to me, people really like it when authors narrate their own audiobook. So I picked up
saw
Audible.
A post that said that the other day.
Yeah, I picked up, it wasn't not Audible, but Audacity, and I'm like going, well, I'll give this a try. So I had my headset, which is not what you should be using. You should be using like, one of these nice microphones.
Mm-hmm.
And I was recording the chapters and, trying to do the characterizations and narrations. And I'm like, boy, do I suck at this. And part of it was, it wasn't me reading stuff. It was me trying to do the voices. And like Steve, he'll pick a voice and it'll, you'll hear him in it, but it will be something different and something that kind of matches the character. So that's when I heard what he did and after I listened to what I did, I'm like, I'll just pay for an audiobook. So it's expensive.
It is.
But at the same time, right now, all I'm looking to do is build a fan base, and I have a fan base in audiobooks. Probably not as much as in ebooks, but I mean, between audiobooks and ebooks, the last time I checked, I was doing roughly 40% sales in audiobooks, 40% sales in ebooks, and 20% paperback. So, and I tend to have, my audience tends to be really heavy into audiobooks.
Sounds like I really need to get my audiobook out sooner rather than later. But,
well, I mean,
you can't rush art.
Yeah. Well,
the old man
like,
in Toy Story 2 was right. Like you can't rush it.
Well, the other thing is that, like if you listen to Larry Correia, when Baen publishes a book, they put out the ebook and the paperback, and then the audiobook comes later.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the only difference here was when they did, what's his name? Jason Cordoba did the Monster Hunter Memoirs Fever. The audiobook came out, I think, before something else. I think it was in the audiobook was the one that rocketed up the charts. So he was like number one or something in Audible, like a couple of days after release. So it's not essential. I only release the audiobook at the same time as I do everything else because I do paid advertising, and it's a lot easier if I just pay for one ad as opposed to paying for one set of ads when the ebook and the paperback come out, and then another set of ads to promote the audiobook.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only reason why I do it. Like I said, it's because I do paid ads. If you don't do paid ads, it doesn't matter when you put out the audio.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Sorry, I distracted myself with thoughts.
Oh, okay.
I was thinking we've gone a little long, which is fine. I think I'll probably turn this into 2 episodes.
All right.
So let's have a little section here, and I'll put this into both episodes. I'll divide the episode roughly where we finished talking about conference setup and went on into the various details of publishing and taking on a lot. But then, so let's remind listeners who you are. You are author Herman P. Hunter, and what do you write?
I write Christian-esque fantasy.
Oh yeah, and I want to talk about that too. Would you mind?
Well, you can talk about it.
Would you mind coming on for another episode another time? We talk about that genre.
Sure.
And we can delve into your flavor of it.
I'm a genre. I'm like an island unto myself. I'm a genre unto myself.
Okay.
So
and where can listeners find your books?
You can find me pretty much anywhere. Of course, Amazon, Audible, Barnes and Noble. Of course, they have their own. You can find me on Kobo. And you can just find me anywhere. Chirp.
And
which is an audiobook.
Your site is, I believe it's
www.hphunterwriter.com.
There it is. Yeah.
And subscribe to my email list. I put out a monthly update, or once every 2 months, depending upon how busy I am, via email. And so you can keep up with my writing. You can also follow me on Amazon. I have a whole 64 followers right now. And I also have a YouTube channel called HP Hunter, Herman P. Hunter's The Lore Forge, where I do writing videos and comical stuff, and sometimes some updates and just associated stuff. Things are video logs. Like I said, you saw my thing about my convention setup and so on. So little things like there's also a video on there about how much it costs to do the Revenant in the Tomb, where I lay out a lot of my costs.
Okay. Yeah, and I will. I'm going to link hphunterwriter.com in the show notes as well. So, I will stop the recording, and then, if you don't mind, we'll schedule another time to talk about your genre. So,
okay.
For our listeners, we'll catch you next time.
Bye.